And we're back on another episode of Listen Up Maryland with Phil Becerra and
Ryan Renner.
as Olivia Nelson-Ododa had another stunning night, Ryan, and the Connecticut Huskies going to deliver yesterday. We apologize for coming on way late, but it's way late. I like to say is late, better than never. So it's late, but it's better than never to recap this UConn Huskies and the Seton Hall Pirates game yesterday. We'll see what Ryan has to say about this. Connecticut moves to 11-4, Ryan, on the season, and the Seton Hall Pirates dropped to 8-9. You have to correct me if I'm wrong. I believe this was another conference game, and you said before over and over these teams in Connecticut's conference, they're just too no disrespect, but they're just too weak to handle the Huskies.
Yeah, I mean, like we said before with these conference games, it's just all the teams in UConn's conference just doesn't have enough talent to keep up with these Huskies, even though they were shorthanded yet again. UConn was without Kristen Williams and Azzi Fudd for Friday's matchup, and they'll also be without them for Sunday's matchup against St. John's. Coach Gino, he seemed hopeful in an interview earlier this week that they could possibly return, get them both back next week. That would be huge for when they play South Carolina. So hopefully they'll be available for that game. That would help them out tremendously. But UConn suffered that tough loss. We recapped that one on Monday against Oregon, and they're looking to bounce back, in this game against Seton Hall, and they did just that. They already beat them once this season. Seton Hall, like you said, dropped to 3-5 in the conference. Huskies improved to 5-0 in the conference. I would expect them to go undefeated in the conference. I just don't think there's anybody good enough to beat them. So I think we're all expecting another championship, Big East champions for UConn this year. But yeah, it's a pretty easy night for UConn. Good bounce back win for them.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that pretty much summed it all up. That's as far as we have to see. Although it's not even February yet, I'm sure that the Huskies would be conference champions. Yeah, and again, as the Pirates, it was kind of similar to the game the last time these two teams met. Remember, it was a 74-49 score, Connecticut over Seton Hall. We recapped that game on December the 3rd. So again, similar score, Ryan. Not much to take away for. We love the blowout wins. We love to see UConn get the blowout wins. But again, when you look at Seton Hall, it's kind of like they had Sydney Cooks as their leading scorer with 10 points in the ball game, but none of the other players again had double digits in rebounds, assists, or points that I'm looking at right here on the scorecard. So yeah, that's tough. I mean, and it almost looks like, high school numbers, I mean, they put up 38 points overall, but I mean, it's just, man, I mean, they scored 11 in the first, 10 in the second, and then they only score 8 and 9 points in the third and the fourth. So that's, yeah, when I saw that, I'm like, yeah, I mean, definitely. I think the question now, I think we need to start focusing on what's going to come, what's going to come after this conference, the championship that Connecticut has earned. Make no mistake, they have earned it. It's going through all the injuries and the ups and downs, but now I think we could focus on the question now, Ryan. I know you probably look at me like I'm crazy and you're saying, Phil, why are you talking about it already? But March is coming quicker than we expect. So I think it's more or less, do you move on the question now? Again, it's game by game. I'm sure Coach Gino would agree with that. But I think it's starting to get, it's safe to say, a little bit challenging to see the road ahead, because now, what happens when you start to go against, who is it? Louisville, South Carolina, even they could meet Maryland. Wouldn't that be a showdown?
Yeah, and
especially being on this podcast, right? So I think it's safe to maybe put your eyes forward a little bit, and maybe the time will tell, because we still had big games against Tennessee. Is it Tennessee Lady Volunteers?
Yeah,
the Lady Vols.
Yeah, I believe they do
Lady
play
Vols,
Tennessee.
Yeah, and then South Carolina. So, I mean, if you're Gino, do you think it's safe to start looking forward to March, and see how they're going to fare against these these teams that have had more success than UConn has just this season, that is.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when we kind of seen how after the Huskies lost Paige Beckers, we kind of seen how the Huskies haven't fared too well against these out of conference teams without Paige Beckers. But even with Paige Beckers earlier in the season, they lost to South Carolina. Georgia Tech was a tough loss. That was a pretty bad loss. They did beat Notre Dame, but of course that was a game that she got injured in those last couple of seconds. But it's just going to be really important whether or not they get Paige Beckers back. We're all hoping that she's able to come back before March Madness, but that would just help them out, tremendously. I think they would get everybody back healthy then. But Kristen Williams and Azzi Fudd, I think, can make a huge impact for these games coming up for when they play South Carolina and Tennessee and those type of teams. But it's we've seen it. They can do it. They can hold teams to under 50 or 40 points that are in their conference, but they're just not that talented. So, if they could hold South Carolina to, maybe around 60 points, I think they'd have a chance to win. But UConn can definitely score, but I think it's a question about their defense.
Good luck, though. Good luck.
Yeah. I mean, the South Carolina is number one for a reason. They only had that one mishap. I believe they lost by 1 in overtime. But yeah, they're the best in the nation for a reason.
By the way, shout out to Georgia Tech and congratulations to that school, the women's basketball team. Remember about a month ago, we had the headline for the video that we put out about a month ago. UConn fell to unranked Georgia Tech, Ryan. Yeah. Now you look at the current standings, and guess what? Look where Georgia Tech is. Number 18, Georgia Tech, with a 13-4 record. So congratulations to them as Georgia Tech moves up in the rank. They go from unranked, Ryan, all the way to number 18. Tell me if that's not a jump.
Yeah, it is. And that's not usually a team that you see ranked. So, hats off to them. They're having a pretty good season. And I'm sure that was a huge momentum boost when they took down the UConn Huskies, especially an unranked team. I forget when we said the last time an unranked team took down the Huskies, but I think it was at least been 10 or 12 years or something crazy like that.
Now, keep in mind, these standings are through games. These rankings, rather, are through games January 16th. So this past Sunday. Let's go ahead and focus on more of the game last night, since we couldn't really, again, we apologize. We couldn't get on quicker than this for you guys, especially the UConn fans, right? But Ryan, I mean, in this game, I know you had more of a chance again to recap it and go over what happened better than I did last night. Take a look at Dorka Ajuhas. I know we like her, the transfer for UConn. Hey, she contributed well again, 9 rebounds, 12 points. I want to go over, though. It was a double-double for Olivia Nelson-Ododa. I mean, just talk about talk about her for a minute, Ryan. Olivia Nelson-Ododa, 34 minutes for UConn, 14 rebounds, 17 points, 5 assists. Whew. And led in all 3 categories.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible what she's done these past 5 or 6 games. It seems like she's been leading these Huskies along with Caroline Ducharme in the scoring category. But Olivia Nelson-Ododa, I'm so glad that she's having a really good senior year for this team. She really deserves it. She's an amazing player. We've seen her here at UConn these past couple of years, but this seems like it's one of her best years yet. Talk about, she got 8 blocks one of these past games a couple games ago. She gets steals, but getting a double-double, that's pretty difficult in college basketball. You don't see it a lot. So she's just been tearing it up these past couple games. Avina Westbrook is another player I wanted to bring up for this one. Played 40 minutes, scored 13 points. She also had 4 rebounds and 4 assists. I talked about in that game against Oregon that she could have played a little bit better. She shot the ball fairly well in this game for UConn. Played 40 minutes and started. So a good bounce back game from her for UConn. with Kristen Williams being out, like I mentioned. So if she can get going too, that would help UConn, because they need all the help they can get with as long as they have Williams and Fudd out, and of course they're without Paige Beckers.
Going over the box score for Seton Hall. Again, the Seton Hall Pirates fall to 8-9. A lot of question marks around this team. I'm not too sure where to start. I mean, they're really struggling badly, and I'm not too sure if it's just against these UConn Huskies. I mean, they're really struggling overall. I think it's safe to say. Now they did put it's amazing, right? Because it just goes to show how the defense is from one team to another. These women put up 84 points in the last game before they faced UConn, and that was against St. John's. They put up, it was Seton Hall earned an 84-79 victory before their game against UConn yesterday. So, I mean, Seton Hall, I mean, they came in on a 2-game winning streak, Ryan. So is it just, again, it's more the factor that they're having a tough time matching up against the ranked teams in the nation?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the fact of the matter that they just don't have enough talent to guard these girls from UConn. They don't have enough size. You mentioned Sydney Cooks led the team with 10 points. It's really not going to be able to get it done, frankly, against any team in the nation to be able to win when your leading scorer only has 10 points. Lauren Park Lane only had 5 points, added 6 rebounds and 4 assists. She really had a tough shooting night. She only shot 1 for 11 from the field. She's usually their leading scorer. So tough night from her. Seton Hall, they only shot 26% as a team from the field. So that's really not good at all. UConn shot about 40 or 50%, I believe, from the field, 41%. And UConn, I saw this stat last night when I was looking over the box score. They took 33-point attempts. That's a lot of 3-pointers, and they only made 6 of them, and they still scored 71 points, only shooting 20% from beyond the arc. So that's pretty impressive to take 33s, only make 6 of them, and still score 71 points. I'm not sure if that was a part of the game plan, or they just thought that's where they could, get an edge on Seton Hall, but they took a lot of threes, didn't make a lot of them, but still scored 71 points.
I'm glad you brought the stat up. Yeah, you texted me last night. I forgot about that, but I'm glad you pointed that out. And that could be something that head coach Gino works on with UConn over the next couple weeks to gain momentum, because you have to imagine if you're going to keep up with the, again, you look at the rankings, you have even going over just the top 5, South Carolina, Stanford, Louisville, North Carolina State, and Tennessee, top 5 through games January 16th. It's looking like you're going to have to heat up outside of the 3-point line. I mean, as we like to call it, from downtown, way downtown. Because again, I understand it's college basketball, but at the same time, I think that's what makes these teams so great. The top teams, you find your groove at the right time. And I think more than half of that comes with 3-point shots. I mean, you see it, not to compare them to the WNBA or NBA. I mean, that's, it's 2 totally separate levels of basketball. But yeah, I really think that's what might separate, or I think that, matter of fact, it does separate, the championship teams from the ones that failed to make it even to the championship game and come April. The ones that can heat up from downtown and the ones that they can't, So I just think, and a lot of that is, you talk about it again, Paige Beckers. I saw a comment on our last video. I can't wait to get, because I think you're going to get a little heated over this one. Let's just go over here whether you see any shakings coming up in the rankings, and then we'll go over the comment from the last video. And boy, I was like, man, we're going to have a little hot debate on this one. So, I mean, again, I read off the top 5 to you. 6 through 10 is Indiana, Iowa State, Michigan, UConn, number 9, and Arizona. Maryland at number 12. I mean, any big shakeups come Monday, or do you still see pretty much the same top 10 right there? I believe UConn may have a strong enough case for the committee to move them up to 8 or number 7 or number 8.
Yeah, I mean, well, we talked about with that loss to Oregon, unranked Oregon, they might move down, but only beating Seton Hall and St. John's, we'll have to see. Well, of course they didn't beat St. John's yet, but they play them tomorrow. I'd
Yeah.
certainly expect them to be able to handle business against St. John's. But South Carolina, Stanford, I think they're locks at 1-2. Number 3 Louisville and number 4 NC State played each other Thursday night. NC State defeated Louisville 68-59. So NC State, I think they'll move up a spot into the top 3. Louisville might move down to 7-8. Iowa State lost to 15th ranked Texas on Wednesday, 66-48. Iowa State, I'd expect them to drop down below the top 10 now. And UConn, I'm not really sure if they'll move down or not. Oregon's a pretty talented team when they're all healthy. We talked about how they haven't had their big 3 in many games this season. So we'll have to see what the committee does with UConn. It'll be pretty interesting where they're ranked come Monday.
I don't know. You might open your eyes big on this one. I'm looking at the schedule now, and I'll make a bold prediction for anyone that cares, or really that pays attention to UConn basketball. Right. Right now, if you want to be honest with you, I have UConn losing only 2 more games the rest of the season. I mean, I don't know if you have the schedule right in front of you right now, but I mean, I don't want to even sound I don't want to even sound, and be I wish, I would like to see them win out. But I don't think that's the case. I think in all reality, I think they lose January 27th to South Carolina because, like you mentioned, even with Paige Beckers, they didn't have a lot of answers for this number 1 team in the nation. I think they lose Thursday, and that's a big one. I cannot wait. That's this week coming up, January 27th. I know we're going to be right on live in action, right in front of the cameras and lights after that game. So that's January 27th. I had them losing against South Carolina, and then I have them losing, Ryan, against Tennessee on February the 6th. I mean, look at the schedule now. You take a look and you can make your strong case, but I don't know. There's always that unexpected loss to come up, just like it was against Oregon, unranked Oregon. But really, in all reality, I only have UConn dropping 2 more the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Creighton, they have to go to Creighton 13-4. Creighton is that might be a tough game for them. I'm not too familiar with Creighton's roster, but that's another out of conference game, much like the Georgia Tech game. So nobody expected them to lose to Georgia Tech. So that might be a tough game for UConn on the road there. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough at South Carolina. That's going to be a classic, I'm sure, Thursday night on ESPN. Yeah, I can't wait for that one. And then Tennessee, I've been talking about them from the beginning of the season, how much or how good I think Tennessee will be, and they've proved that so far this season.
Yeah, you're right. The head coach there, Jim Flannery for Creighton, they do. Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that game out. It looks like they have a very healthy roster set in place too. So that could be a team to keep an eye on. They have Jamie Horan, they have Rachel Saunders. Yeah, a lot of big name, Mallory Brake, sophomore. And a lot of these girls are young. There's one senior that I see on this. Okay, so 2 seniors. Peyton Brodsky, she's a senior. Let's see, another, yeah. So Rachel Saunders is a senior. So 4, and then Tatum Rembeo, 4 seniors. So yeah, they do have a strong roster, and a lot of height. A lot of height on this team. I'm seeing a lot of 6 feet girls coming in. So 6 foot and taller. So yeah, 6 foot and some change. So yeah, man, it's going to get interesting. Again, we never thought we would say this, but now with Paige Beckers out, nothing is guaranteed in these ball games. And even with her in, and that's a comment that we're getting ready to get to end this episode. Let's see what you had to say about this one. When the Oregon Ducks flew over the UConn Huskies, and I believe that was on the 17th of January. So Here he is. I believe this is a guy that's commented on this video. So M. Malone, Ryan, he goes, what the world needs to accept is that there are many players out there now that are as good, if not better, than PB, Paige Beckers, and Fudd. I don't know. I'm not too sure. I don't know. I'm not. You know, I think for M. Malone, okay, I think it's easy to say that when they're not playing.
Right.
When they're on the floor together, we haven't seen even what half of this UConn team has the potential to do with a fully healthy roster. So, Ryan, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree too much with anybody, any player being better than Paige Beckers. I mean, she was the freshman of the year, AP player of the year last season as a freshman. It's the first time that's ever been done. And then of course she was off to a really good start. She got injured. So you know we'll have to see how she comes back, but I wouldn't expect her to just drop all the way down and never be able to recover from that injury. And Azzi Fudd, I mean, she's a freshman too, right? So, you know, we haven't seen much of her. I think there probably are some players, you know, on these higher ranked schools like South Carolina, Louisville, NC State, Tennessee, that are at Azzi Fudd's level. But Paige Beckers, I mean, she's a conductor. She's the leader when she's on the floor for this Connecticut team. She's the voice of the team. She calls out all the plays. Nika Mule essentially took her spot with the play calling and kind of the leader type of role for this UConn team. But man, when Paige Beckers is on the floor, you know, that's when the opposing team really needs to guard UConn from the 3-point line, because Paige Beckers, when she starts knocking down those 3-pointers, she's usually going to make them if you leave her wide open. So she's a game changer for this UConn team. And in my opinion, she's still the best player in the nation.
Yeah, I think, you know, I'm not, you know, not to, of course, that's, you know, sometimes that's what we're here to do is start a deep conversation in sports, but, you know, not to cause an argument per se, but yeah, I'm not too sure if that was taking taking a little bit of heat at UConn or what that, because I mean, when you go over players like Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, Maya Moore, Brianna Stewart, Tina Charles, Swin Cash, Nikesha Sales, Rebecca Lobo, Ryan, those are all legends in UConn women's basketball history, and they paved the way for what is to come. And it's just like the New England Patriots. It's just like any team in professional sports that have went on to have major success. And I don't consider, although I say it, if you don't win it all, it doesn't really matter where you finish. But there's still a point to look at that. How much success have you brought to the franchise during your years playing? And I think that's just, I think that's a case of maybe someone getting tired of seeing UConn win all the time. Because I'm just not too sure. Yeah, I mean, that's a dangerous comment there. Again, because as we mentioned, I mentioned that to you in the last video, how a lot of these athletes come back stronger from injury than they were before they got hurt, before they got injured.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's really, really a danger. And again, we're expecting some big things coming out of UConn in even this year, even as far as this year. And I wouldn't call it a complete failure if they don't win the national championship.
No.
But I mean, look ahead to next season and then the year after. Man, it's the seal. I tell you, the sky's the limit for this team. But I think that's a case of just making, yeah, I mean, you know, with the legendary players that already stepped foot in this program, you know, obviously there's people out there, admit it, that they get tired of the same team having success, not only winning it all, but even being in the mix of fighting to be champions of the nation. So that's just what winning does. You face it. That's what winning does. And it always will. I don't think it's ever going to change. So
No.
And I think I think that you're going to have to get used to UConn again for a while, because I think that you agree with me. You've said it over these past couple videos. I don't think UConn is going anywhere anytime soon.
No, and I don't really think they ever will. Maybe at some point down the line, like we said, Gino eventually has to retire, and then
When I
somebody's gonna
hold
have
on
to
now,
take over.
when I say that, what I mean is I don't think that they're going to drop off anytime soon,
No,
is what I
no,
mean.
no, not a
So
drastic drop off. I mean, they still have Paige Beckers for 2 years. Ducharme, Fudd are freshmen. Olivia Nelson Adota, obviously a senior, Kristen Williams, but they just bring in so much talent every single year. Dorka Juhas, I believe she's a junior. So I mean, they get all these girls back healthy. Even this season, I mean, I still think they could make a run in March Madness if they get Paige Beckers back. So that there's still a lot to look forward to, even if they do lose to South Carolina and Tennessee. Like we said earlier, we don't really expect them to lose any of these conference games because the teams in their conference just aren't good enough. So they'll definitely be in March Madness. Hopefully, they can get Paige Beckers back and maybe go on a run. But like you said, if they don't win it this year, I don't really think it's a letdown. But
no.
next season, I think the expectation is way up
Mm-hmm.
here. And
Yep.
I really think next year, if they stay healthy, they get all these players back. I really think Paige Beckers can lead them to the promised land.
Yeah, and you had to. I don't know now. I'm not going to look, but you have to think of how many players are leaving other programs that are in the
Yeah.
top 5 or the top 10 right now. How many seniors? It may not be any. I'm not 100% sure now, but I would have to take a look. You have to also think to yourself, okay, there's not a lot of players that are leaving UConn right away, correct?
No.
That's what I'm saying. So, and you take a look at number 1 South Carolina on down the list, and you're like, okay, how many seniors are there moving on into the WNBA draft or playing overseas, leaving the program? Will that open the door up for the UConn Huskies? I think so.
Yeah, because UConn only has 3 seniors, Adota, Williams, and Avina Westbrook, I believe. So the future is definitely bright for years to come. And even this year still, but next year I think it is really the time where they can make something happen.
Comment, like, and subscribe. And we appreciate you, especially shouting out to the UConn Huskies fans.